Hello everyone, welcome back. My name's Notepad Anon, and I write games for fun. Now you may be wondering where have I been for the past 2 weeks. I have been being a productive human being, unfortunately. And by being a productive human being, I mean I have been moving someone in, trying to survive riots in my city, and most importantly, drinking to excess. So what are we working on today? Well, last time I was working on a game called Iron Caskets. And Iron Caskets got wrapped up pretty nicely. It's one of those games where I always wish I could do more with, but overall I think what was done with it worked. I don't think there really needs to be anything more added to it. Probably some cleaning is all I need. Other things that I did is I worked on a game called High Speed Death Machine. And that was I was in a slump right after. Where did you go? I was somewhat in a slump after I finished up Iron Caskets, and just a lot of things hit me at once. And I just didn't feel like really being a productive human being in the slightest. So I managed to just take time and just create something. Create something fast and fun. Thus, High Speed Death Machine, which is a solo game, which is kind of atypical of me, about being something more akin to John Wick, the Doomslayer, or a plethora of those Indonesian action films about running at high speeds toward your enemy and beating them to death with the nearest object. And it was a fairly simple system, just a 3d6 system, and it actually isn't that long. You can kind of see already right there. It's only about 15, 16, 17 pages. And one of those games where I wish I felt a little bit more in it. Because it was very much a game of, I need to sit down, I need to write this to sort of start writing again. Because it was 2 week slump. I didn't quite know what I was doing. Kind of was running into a lot of little niggles and little problems, so I just didn't have the gusto to continue. But outside of that, I also started a new thing, otherwise known as a website, because I'm a productive human being. So if we go here, and the URL is notepadanon.wixsite.com/sprugworkshop. You get to see my incredibly shitty site. This is a really cheap site I made in Wix because it's awful, but I love it. My various communications with me. Here's my email address if you really want it. It also has a really bad description. Look at that. Of all the games that I have written so far. Because I've been having people ask, like, hey, where can I find X, Y, or Z? And so I put it all in a single location so people can actually find these things. And I can just give them the site rather than having to link them individual games. It also has my entire note on the unfun stuff, such as legal stuff, and on the art. It also has my blog, because I'm a productive human being now. I have a blog. That means I'm important, right? It's not really that impressive, to be perfectly frank with you. Getting yelled at on my phone. And what are we drinking tonight? We are drinking a pint of Guinness. This is American Guinness, unfortunately, not the good Irish stuff, but still good. For a quiet Wednesday afternoon. But this stream isn't about High Speed Death Machine or about my website, even though you should totally visit my website, please. Please, I put so much time into it. It is instead about some projects I started. I took this time, my kind of slump, to go through and find games that I wanted to create. Just things that appeal to me, something that really jumped out at me and said, "Hey, let's do this. Let's have fun with this." And if you scroll down, You see, I have a lot of personal projects. I've decided to add to the list, and a few new, and just a new fixed project. So if we scroll all the way up, my personal projects, the newest ones, Into the Badlands. Into the Badlands is actually a show I watched on Netflix, kind of on a whim, kind of as a reference to Fist of Chaos more than anything. But I actually really enjoyed the setting because it's Kung Fu Samurai Americana. And it's kind of has all this, it has a lot of weird aspects all mashed together to form a really interesting and compelling setting. Near the second season and the third season, it kind of fell off as they focused more on mystic magic bullshit plots. But I still really enjoyed the ideas behind it. And the high flying action mixed with kind of the idea of barons and these larger conflicts that have been kind of permeating the world for so long. And post-apocalyptic stuff has always been a thing that I enjoy. What does that say about me? I don't know. But, so, then we have Project Speed, which is a racing RPG. And this was actually brought up by a thread on TG of all things, just because, like, why are there no good racing games? Because, the epic highs and lows of racing. And when you really boil down to it, you had things like Car Lesbians, which is a game about being a lesbian in a car. You have the F-Zero RPG. You also had, I Can See It, Atomic Highway, and a few other little games. But nothing really to emphasize the driving aspect. The go fast, have fun, do a crazy flip off a ramp and dab on your enemies. You don't really have those kind of games out there. So I'm like, hey, that sounds like something fun. That sounds like something exciting to do. So let's do it. The not copyrighted World of Darkness. You can argue to put this into the fix games, but I decided to put it here because I always wanted to make kind of like my own World of Darkness. I actually had one for Heroes, Valor, and Mead called Dark Knights of Terrible Monsters, DNTM, which was kind of about this. I actually have a little bit of stuff written up for it, as it was, for lack of a better word, me trying desperately hard to see as not it as possible. So I kind of went with it and had some fun with it. So we also have Project Goblin. Now, this was also from another thread on TG about monster heroes. And why can't I play a monster who is a hero? Why do I always have to play either a gimped character, I'd have to take racial levels, racial class levels before I can take my actual class levels? Or why do I have to take, or why do they always get like a gimped version of it? Why can't I play a monster? And Project Goblin's kind of the way to address that, because I thought I went with a slightly different angle, more on the idea of that you are a tribe of goblins. You're shitty, expendable, and no one likes you, so you're probably going to get eaten. And kind of more of a fantasy game, hey, you're a level 1 goblin, congratulations, you're going to get killed by a wolf probably, or a very mean dog. But you're a level 10 goblin now, you're probably going to get killed by a small pack of dogs, or a small pack of wolves. You're still kind of these tiny shitty goblins that are supposed to get cut down by the heroes, but you, through wits and various other things, survive and thrive. That's the point. That's the idea. Then we have Project Inchling, which will actually be the focus of today's stream more than anything. Project Inchling is mostly based off one guy on TG who really loves his fucking Inchlings. And he has a couple threads over the past few years of saying, hey, why don't you have Inchlings in your game? Or, hey, why don't you have this? And it's usually, they don't really reach that far, but the idea of a Borrowers-esque game, or even a goddamn Smurf game, if you really want to go down that route, always seemed interesting to me, because, again, you have to view the world at a very different angle compared to other games, where another game might say, hey, walking across the room takes an action. Walking across the room for a pack of Inchlings is a day's trek. Everything seems a lot longer, and everything seems a lot more lethal. The pet house cat no longer is a pet house cat, it's a monster hunter boss. And you don't have the cool giant swords, you have a thumbtack, and you're going to die. So I wanted to create a game with that, which emphasizes kind of more exploration bits, as well as the, how do I word this properly, the lethality of being small, because that's kind of the point. You are a small, tiny entity. You're going to die. You're going to die painfully in a plethora of violent ways because you are tiny, tiny and shitty and nobody likes you because you are a tiny inchling. And your death is expected. It's not tragic, really. It's, yeah, he fell off he fell off the desk and broke both of his legs. How do we get him back? Or, oh, hey, he died in the fucking garden because guess what? He didn't eat for 3 days. And I knew he just passed away because Inchlings needed food. So you always have this overriding fear of death in that game. And I always thought that would be a little bit more appropriate. Because a lot of the time when people say, I want to run an Inchling game, I want to run a Borrower's game, I want to run the Secret Life of Ariete game. Yeah, look at it and be like, okay, what do I do? Like, oh, I'm collecting things. Oh boy, I'm collecting things. Always have to put one of the key things in both of those settings, and any setting with Inchlings, quote unquote, in them, is the fear of death being a lot bigger. Even the Adventures of Tom Thumb, Ishinboshi, I think that's how you pronounce his name, are the small entities taking on big things because big things can kill them very easily, and it's them having to survive by wit, luck, or just, sheer bravery. While, other people, big people, have to not do that. Because they have a giant axe. You have a thumbtack, or you have a pen to work with, button shield. And finally, Project Catwy. My friend requested it. I asked a handful of my friends, like, hey, what kind of games do you want? And the first thing she said, follow her on Twitch at Absolute Marmalade, if you want to follow her, being a kawaii artist girl. She said, I want a cat girl RPG, and I'm like, I'll remake Catastrophe. And the day that she proposed that, about 15 people decided that they were going to also start remaking Catastrophe. My feels, my life, in a nutshell, everybody. It's a tragic existence of having your project stolen from under you before you even began them. But hey, I have a few ideas of what I would want to do with that. Pretty much it would be the cringiest, weeviest anime grill adventure ever created by mankind, but it would definitely be a thing. And the last one, kind of the newest edition, is Sigmata: The Signal Kills Fascists. Sigmata was an interesting game. It came out in 2018, I believe. And had a Kickstarter, did relatively well on it. It's one of those games that I would call politically charged. As the name implies, the signal kills fascists. And by fascists, they meant McCarthy took over the United States and instituted a fascist regime. So you, as cyborg super soldiers, must use the power of friendship to wage an ethical insurgency to kill them all. For reasons. Yeah. It proved to be a fascinating idea because it has this cassette futurism idea. It's the far off futuristic age of 1980s, as well as kind of had the idea of like cyborg super soldiers having to fight for the resistance against a corrupt government. But they also had this very strong emphasis on left-wing politics and kind of had this weird division in that regard, such as one of the main example characters being a member of Pol Pot's regime at one point, but we don't talk about that character, right? The Khmer Rouge is bad, so we don't have a character who's directly tied to them. That's kind of fucked up. I don't know about you. But it also had a very wonky system tied to it, as the system was something we could best be described as narrative. and narrative in the worst ways, because it really emphasized the story more than it emphasized the rules, the gameplay, and being a cyborg super soldier. As anything you did, it boosted your exposure, and if you had a 10 exposure, you were just removed from play because you just got exposed too fast, but then all your powers did roughly the same thing. It turned out to be just not a very fun game to even kind of play. I read through the entire book, and I was like, wow, this is awful. Like, it they sold an idea. They did not sell a game, and that's one thing I'm actually debating on doing a blog post about, ideas versus games. But they sold an idea and people liked it, and they're trying to do a second edition. Where are you? It was one of those weird ones that's like, so. Where is it? Where is it? Ah, there we go. This is their second edition. Like, this is a full-on, like, legit second edition. That's for a game that's barely a year old. They say it's like, oh, it's an official companion, dramatically improves the core Sigmata experience, effectively upgrading it to a second edition, and they're making it $15. But if you go back to here, you realize, oh wow, like 35, like watermark PDF. Oh, you can just buy it for free if you want. But it's like, you're paying $15 for it, and if we actually go back to the Kickstarter, I'm signal boosting this game, but I also fucking hate it. Let's see. So $16 minimum to get the PDF. So you're doubling your pay to get the second edition that actually makes the game playable. Interesting. But they also kind of cut down your options, ironically enough, by making it only about more liberal ideologies. My proposal to fix the game is, A, make it so playing a cyborg super soldier is actually cool and fun, rather than being a boring experience, because I don't know how you make playing a cyborg super soldier fucking boring, but they managed to. And turn that idea into more an exploration into identity politics, because when you hear the term identity politics, it's very easy to associate it with with, oh, well, this is who I am, and blah 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 blah, and this is who my identity is who I vote for, effectively, or what I believe in. That's who I am. No, with what I want to turn it into is, what happens if you unleash a bunch of cyborg super soldiers into the world and then tell them to live their life normally? During this horrible event, this horrible uprising that's killing people on both sides. What do? Well, naturally, you're going to get some of these super soldiers who are going to lean toward the police, authority, understanding, and more of the iron fist of justice, must prevail. Well, you're going to get others who are going to fall into the, well, we have to overthrow the government because the government is evil and doing terrible things. But where do you fall along the spectrum? Are you a anarchist? Do you just believe that there should be no government? All the way to, do you legitimately believe that you're the vicar of Christ, and it's your responsibility to bring the light of God to the world? And I want every super soldier, every character, to feel like they have a choice of who they are, and kind of define themselves that way. I want the adventure to be learning about themselves and then kind of dedicating themselves to a cause, finding your identity when you don't have one, because that's kind of the core idea. Is like, you get set off into the world, programming is done, congratulations, welcome to being a human being, except you're not. You're a horrifying, deadly, super death machine, and everyone's terrified of you, but everyone also wants to manipulate you. So you go back and forth, always wondering, what's the best idea for you? Like, your identity as a character should be important. You shouldn't be typecasted into a single one. If you want to play a full-on hardcore theocratic character, you should have the option. If you want to play a Nazpul character, go for it. I can't stop you. That's what your identity is. You don't have to support the ideology perfectly yourself, but that's what your character would believe in. I want you and your character to feel something and feel passionate about it. They believe that the government's right. They should have the right to join the government. That's, their prerogative. It's their right, their freedom. Because it's weird with Sigmata. I can rant philosophically. I'll be able to just quick with this one. Is that you don't really have an option. Government bad, resistance good. Which faction and resistance gooder than the others? And it has an interesting idea behind it, but they give no nuance to the villains, and that's what you need to make a good villain, is give them nuance and give them ideas. They make them blind Nazi jackasses with absolutely no redeeming values, and I want to give them redeeming values. Shit's fucked. Things are falling apart. We had to use cyborg super soldiers to win a war. Why? And what happens afterward? We believe in absolute freedom, so we let them decide what they wanted to do. You immediately have this more compelling idea of a villain, or a compelling idea of a different faction, different point of view. It's we're horrifying we are a horrifying dictatorship. We fully, fundamentally believe there are lesser and greater people in this world. But we also believe everyone has the right to do whatever the fuck they want. It's their right. It's you as a person have that right. So as a cyborg super soldier, you fought for your country. You fought, killed, and died in some cases for it. Your right to come back home and decide what do you want to do. And that kind of immediately gives them a little bit more nuance. Gives them a little bit more Nazi bad, fascist bad, blah, 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 blah. No, you have to give personality. You have to give face to an opposing faction, or you have to give an idea to what you're fighting rather than a blanket evil statement. If you just make a blanket evil statement, you lose. They become funny. They're a parody. They're not the Nazis anymore. They are the Nazis you find in those pulp magazines using guerrillas to threaten a damsel in distress. That's the point. And you know what? Sometimes mutant guerrilla Nazis are fine, if that's the kind of game you want to run. But I feel in a game like that, with such a relatively serious subject matter and such kind of using a bizarre take on it, loses something with having guerrilla Nazis. You lose something. You lose a part that's needed. Alright, so let's get back to what we were talking about. I was on my long-winded rant about Sigmata. Are we working on anything else? Not really. So, we'll go to Project Inchling. As of usual, I don't actually have a name for these things, because why would I have a name for something? Names are for losers. Go away, Steam. I was playing Planetary Annihilations earlier today. Go away. Go away, please. Steam, please. Steam, no. Steam, no. No, Steam. STEM. There we go. Okay, yeah, now my computer's just like, oh god, you closed Steam. How could you? Yeah, there we go. So what I have so far with Project Inchling, which will probably get renamed to something really clever, is you might recognize this handy thing from Where the Light Fades Softly. Now, what I was thinking about doing is making the game very much based on moving and traveling. That's what it's really about. It's a small adventure for small people. And what I had is using a dice pool system similar to OVA. So how OVA's system works, this is a very cut down version of it, and I could probably do a better version, but I don't feel like it. And let's say I roll a 2, 3, 3, 4, and 5. Now, in an additive system, basic additive system, what this would be, if we add everything together, it'd be 5, 8, 12, it'd be 17. This is the additive system. Now, in a success system, let's say, 4, 5, 6 are successes, I would have 2 successes. Success based. Now, OVA's is unique because it says, okay, you have 2, 2, 3, 3, you have 2, 3, 3, 4, 5. You technically rolled a 6. As you have 2 3s, and 3 plus 3 equals 6. However, if I rolled 2 2s, I would have a 4. If I rolled 2 2s, 3 3s, I would still have a 6. So it's kind of based on how much your specific dice would turn up, rather than anything in particular. So what I have so far is have that basic dice pool system, and every stat attributes, you have your 5 basic attributes. So far I have strength, scholar, bravado, will, and survival. I don't quite know how to word this one properly. My idea for survival is effectively, scholar is your book smarts. That's you being able to look at a plant and say, oh, well, that plant is, according to this book, healthy for us. Or, well, I know how to do trigonometry, or I know how to read properly. Survival, or whatever the hell I decide to call it, is more about, okay, we have to take a left to the right, and, we take a left at this, and then we go take a right here, and we're there. Or it's kind of more that streetwise rather than bookwise. I don't know how to word it properly, and it's just going to have to be me sitting on my ass one day and going through it and clicking the buttons and saying, make number right, please. And until that happens, I'll have to I might ask around a little bit and see what would be the best way to do it is. But those are my 5 key attributes, all based on 3. Because again, you're going to be rolling dice. There's a good chance you barely even fucking succeed, if anything. And let me see. Then you'd have traits. Traits, let me actually say, or backgrounds. Your backgrounds pretty much add to your base attributes. And so, let's say I was a ranger. Let's say I'm a trader. I would get a plus to my bravado. But let's say I'm a monk. I would get a plus to my will. Or I'm a guard. I get a plus to my strength. And what I was thinking about doing is pretty much doing childhood, teenage years, and then finally your adult years, kind of like what you are right now. Each of these giving a incremental bonus. So if you start with 3 on everything, so 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, you're going to have probably 2, 2, 2. So that would be, actually, if we do 2, 2, 2, that'd put you up to 21. Yeah, that's a pretty decent number. 21 attributes total, but again, you're only going to be rolling a little bit of dice. And you might have, let's say your childhood was that you were a wild child. Plus strength, plus will. Teenage years, you were a apprentice. You were a woodsman. You were a craftsman apprentice. Plus bravado. Plus strength. Actually, no, it would be plus scholar, plus strength. And as an adult, you were a craftsman, which gives you just plus scholar, plus bravado. So you kind of have this history that, hey, you know who you are by the time. But I also want things to be fast. Creating your character overall. Because one of the key things I want with this game is that I want it to be really goddamn lethal. And I don't mean like, oh no, you took 2 damage, therefore you have 1 die. No, it's like, I'm effectively going to have 4 tracks of health. The wounds track, which is your traditional, your wounds track, which is just your bodily health. Bleeding, cuts, wounds, or anything kind of more physical on you. Your illness track, which is more about, well, your just well-being in general. So, one of the things I want to put in a system like Ryotama's traveling mechanics. That's going to be kind of one of the harder bits to do. I know kind of how to do it. It's just going to take time. But with the well-being, is your illness will gradually go up if you get caught in bad weather, if you're eating bad food. And so you're always kind of being forced to manage your illness. Because if you get too ill, well, you're going to start doing worse in everything. And then you have your hunger, which is, well, fairly obvious. And finally, depression. Inchling society, how I envision it, is a depressing state of affairs, because you will die. And not like, oh, you'll live a full and happy life and die like the hobbits, surrounded by friends and family. No, you're just gonna fucking die. Probably in pain. Getting shanked with something. And even I actually had to do a bit of Googling. Smaller animals tend to have shorter lifespans because they have to heat themselves up. It's harder for them to keep everything functional. So, as a incredibly tiny individual, an individual who can fit in the palm of my hand, your lifespan would be drastically reduced. Pretty much an inchling is, traditionally speaking, only, probably a few inches tall. I've actually seen a couple renditions of it. Sometimes it's like, oh, they're small enough they can fit in the palm of your hand, or like, oh, they're like 2-3 inches tall. It kind of depends on what kind of thing you feel like smoking, but the smaller they are, effectively, you negate fall damage. So, dropping from a 5-foot table isn't exactly lethal to you because you're literally small enough you don't pick up speed. But getting swatted away by a hand is having a massive amount of force come into contact with your entire body, which could be lethal, send you flying across and have your back snap. Then you're dead. Or getting crushed. Death. Getting gobbled up by a nearby animal. Death. It's being that you live a short, miserable, tragic life that you are going to die horrifically in. And I want to get that feeling across. Everyone's kind of, all Inchlings kind of come to accept that. And it's not a matter of peace, love, and unity. Like, oh, let's all get together and grab our hands and dance around the circle together. Yay! We're dancing around the circle to ignore the fact that we lost 5% of our village due to the fact that we all starved to death because the humans moved out. Yay! Oh, God! I could picture it being like one of those, an Inchling society is something small and takes over a an area, a stump, a log, a place, corner of a parking lot, and the world gets magnified tenfold, but because everything is lethal. Everything can and will kill you. Hunting you hunt ants because that's about the only thing that you can relatively kill. You make sure they're not fire ants, because guess what? Getting swarmed by murderous fire ants isn't exactly good for your health. So you always have to deal with that ever-present dread of dying painfully to really contend with everything. But that's kind of the point. But that's fine. We like that. We like having fun. We like putting danger and threat. Well, there. If you don't have danger or threat, you really don't have a game. You have an experience, mind you, but not a game. So, overall, I think the idea behind this works fairly well. My big hang-ups are getting this system converted over, as well as getting a newer rendition of Ryutama's way of doing things fixed up. Once those two entities are kind of wrapped up, I think we can actually do things it'll be a pretty, I wouldn't say cut and dry affair, but a simpler affair. I can really chew this beer. It's good. I'm the one of those men who likes to chew their beer. So, let's see. Okay, let's actually... There we go. I'll add some fun and exciting tags randomly to my stream. But this will probably be a shorter stream. I kind of want to give everyone an update more than anything that I'm not dead. We're going to be going on a new project. And kind of get the idea of how I want to handle things. And I know kind of how I want to handle the Inchling adventures. Is that they're about to be short, dramatic, and painful. Not exactly a fun and exciting world, but I also kind of want to give people a little bit of leeway. As with a lot of my games, I don't want it to be like this is the only way to play it, and if you don't play it my specific way, you will get strapped to the cross. No, I like to give people options, and I'll probably be in the extra rules section, kind of provide a couple different options. More fantastical rules, or more, I can see it. I can see what I want to say. Oh yeah, pretty much being, part of an adventurer's cadre. It's, well, you're in the pocket of an adventurer, effectively, huh? Where, Inchlings a gold coin to an Inchling doesn't really mean anything. But gold coin, he puts down a gold coin on the counter, and suddenly you can eat for a year. You want to work for him. So it's kind of that idea of always going back home to something. That's going to be another big idea. I'm going to be stealing a lot from Where the Light Fades Softly, with just a little bit more, dare I say, nuance to it. Because I want the idea of you never really feel at home in nature. As like kind of that an old theory called City on the Hill. It's an old Americanist theory, where the city is civilization. Your town is civilization. It's friendly. It's hospitable. You may not be loved. You may not be loved, but at least you're safe there. You'll get a bed. You'll get fed. Everything outside, wild, that's where shit gets wrong. That's where people get cut in half. That's where someone gets dragged off into the middle of the night into the woods and never to be seen again. That's where you round a corner and see a giant spider looming at you with dripping fangs. That's where you look up and see a hawk rushing down to grab one of your mates. Oh God, oh God, oh God! That's what I want to get across. Nature, scary. Home, not scary. So kind of for more of the adventuring ideas, that like home is your adventure. And they're going to effectively ask that you pull your weight. They're going to set you down in the dungeon and say, okay, I want you guys to go under the door, scout ahead for me. Or I want you to, go into this little tiny keyhole and see what's on the other side so I can I can go through this. Pretty much you have to pull your weight. You're going through cracks, you're kind of fighting little monsters that kind of inhabit the nooks and crannies of it while always kind of protecting your adventuring friend. You may not be the most threatening individual in the world, but you still are the ones able to kind of position things where they need to be. Or you're the one that's going to be maneuvering into places that need to be done. So, as I said before, this is more of an update to confirm that I'm still alive. I'm not going anywhere. And I hope you all decide to come back and watch me go through Project Inchling. I hope you all had fun. If you're watching this on YouTube, it'll probably be a little while after I upload this, and you'll probably get a large amount of other things with this one as well. Probably the first 2 or 3 episodes of Project Inchling itself. But overall, I hope you all had fun. And if you like it, please leave a follow. And if you are on YouTube, leave a subscribe, smash that like button and hit the little bell icon if you, for whatever fucking reason, you decide that you want to. I don't know why you would. I don't really offer anything. I just drink on stream. And what else? Oh, yeah. If you are curious about any of these games or any blogs or anything, just go to my website, notepadaddon.wixsite.com/SPRUG workshop. And you'll find my site, or you can actually find it in the links in this stream. The core idea behind that is just as a repository to place all my stuff. And in case you have any questions for me, feel free to shoot me a message. I'm always available. I always like answering questions. So if you ever have a question about homebrew, or you ever have any ideas of like, hey, I don't know what to do with here, or you just want to talk to someone about your game, feel free to shoot me a message. I'm more than welcome to talk to you about it. I do have a Discord. If anyone's interested in it, just hit me up. I don't think anyone would be, because I'm a loser with like one person in my Discord. She's a great human being. But what else? Nothing much. Well, thank you all. Hope you all have a wonderful rest of your night. Godspeed, good luck, and if you turtle in planetary annihilation, I will find you and I will kill you. Thank you. Goodbye.